Hi friends, this is Brant Spesshardt with Steward Strategies. Thank you for tuning in and investing some time with us. There's 6 key areas of financial planning: investments, retirement, tax, estate, protection, and generosity. And today we're really going to focus on investments and retirement. But I think we can also say that, hey, look, taxes affect my retirement. My legacy, my estate could be affected by what I leave after my retirement. Generosity is affected by our extra cash flow. So let's talk about what's one of the biggest concerns most retirees have. What is that? The biggest concern is that, hey, look, I don't want to outlive my money. So we've got to plan for a lifetime income in retirement. What we're going to focus today on is an income problem, but also the solution. So the questions we really have to focus on is, will our income outlive us, or will we outlive our income? The whole point of retirement income planning is trying to make sure that our income outlives us. The essential retirement answer is, in order for it to outlive us, our income must grow at least at the rate of our cost of living. So the challenge is to create an income that's dynamic. It must rise through time to offset inflation. But the critical issue turns out not to be so much a level of our income, but actually the trajectory of our income. Because a fixed income in retirement cannot really be the answer. A fixed income in retirement means it stays the same. And even if your fixed income starts out above your income needs, your costs immediately start catching up. When and where those lines cross is not so much the issue. The issue really is that if they cross, then you start running out of money because you're dipping into principal to make up for the income shortfall. And that's a downward spiral. Only the Lord knows how long we've got in this earth. Our retirement could be 10, 20, 30, maybe 40 years. And by the way, if you start retirement with a fixed income, that's half again the income you need that year. So if we trend at 3% inflation, the lines cross around year 14. So even if you really aren't preparing for, just say, a 3-decade retirement, it is preparing for you. The joint life expectancy of a non-smoking, non-tobacco couple retiring around age 62 is age 92. It's 30 years. That's the top of the bell curve here. See those little dots to the right? That's you. Because you've had better educations, better healthcare, better jobs, and more income, don't count on being average. We really feel like, hey, look, if clients are focused on financial planning, they're probably also focused on other areas of their life as well. Now, income needs in retirement, let's say it's $8,000 a month. But to offset trending inflation, your income must rise about 2.4 times over 30 years. So if you need $8,000 a month on top of your Social Security in year 1, you'll need $9,200 in year 5, and you'll need $10,600 in year 10, and so on. So the question is, where historically do we find this kind of rising income? Well, owning companies and not lending to companies. Fixed income bonds, that by definition, they don't produce a rising income. Bonds or fixed income are loans, are lending to companies. But mainstream equities, and equities are stocks. But remember, stocks are not really what we're investing in. What we're investing in are the companies. We're owning these companies. Well, historically, stocks, generally rise, and they also pay dividends. So rising income and sharply rising income that has most reliably been produced through the ownership of successful companies, the great companies of America. That's what we're investing in. That's what we're owning. These great companies that are relying on innovation to grow over time. Dividends are the inflation killer. Let's just look at what happened over the lives of people heading into retirement until now? How much has the consumer price index grown, inflation grown, the cost of goods and services? But how much have dividends grown just for the S&P 500 over that same time frame? Inflation has grown 11 times. The cost of goods and services have gone up 11 times since 1960. But dividends of these great companies of America that you can not just invest in, but you can actually own, have grown 40 times. And by the way, the S&P 500, the value of the index itself, the stock values, not just the dividends, have grown 118 times over that same time frame. So rising equity values give you even more room to increase withdrawals. Build wealth that you can not only use and enjoy, but remember, you might also be building wealth that you can leave to the people you love, to the organization and missions you love. But now here's my disclosure. Past performance does not predict future results. But look, reach out to us and we can have a conversation. We can show you how your actual numbers have have resulted over a lifetime. So what should we do? What's the next step? You got to calculate your number. Let's look at this calculation right here. Assume you need to replace your income of, just say it's $250,000. Take off $50,000 a year for Social Security, and you're like, hey, look, I've got $200,000 I've got to replace. Well, if I want to replace $200,000, we can multiply the factor. Gosh, I better have about a little over $4 million by the time I retire. So let's define the number that is specific to you, because it's your number that matters most to you and your family and your financial goals. We at Steward Wealth Strategies, we believe financial planning is not just investments. Let's make sure you've got the right investment plan that fits your retirement income needs, but let's evaluate taxes, estate, your cares for generosity, but also evaluate the protection to make sure if things happen, you and your family are in good shape. It's an honor to serve you. Thank you for joining us today. God bless you. Thank you.